Hello, Africa. How are you doing? I hope you're doing great, Mama.
Meta AI did quote several Catholic popes who in the past said that African culture should not be killed. Instead, Christianity should be adapted to suit the African culture. Hello there, I am Harry Agena with the Afro project, where we bring the African ways of life to the world. This time I bring you a new addition to our line of programs, and it is a chat with Meta Artificial Intelligence, Meta AI. And we're going to be talking about some misconceptions among religions of the world, especially as they affect the African culture. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. And it is a written chat, but as you can see, I have converted it to some form of podcast. And Mr. Meta is amazing. And I use the word Mr. even though it's an artificial system, but I call it him even, Meta, because it's amazing how this system reacts to you like a human being. The way, where it knows my name, and you're going to see some of what happens as we go on, okay? And like I said, I'm playing the voice of Harry Agena as well as the voice of Meta AI. So don't mind how I do it. I may even use the exact same voice of Harry Agena anyway. Okay, so I'm going to start by introducing Mr. Meta to you. And here we go. Knock, knock. Who is there? This is yours truly, Harry Agena, with the Afroscope project. Remember me? Oh yeah, buddy. I do recall that great Afroscope project. How is it coming along? Just fine, buddy. So, what is new, Harry? I want us to chat about the Afroscope position that the African culture is at the risk of extinction, and misguided Christianity is among the major threats. That's a great one. Bring it on, Harry. Afroscope's objective is to enlighten African Christians in Africa about some misconceptions about Christianity to the detriment of the African culture, contrary to the present views of the white man who took Christianity to Africa. That's a tough one, Harry, considering that Christians are sensitive about their beliefs and doctrines. Yeah, I know. It's a tough job, but somebody has got to do it. Mind you, I emphasize Africans in Africa because Africans outside Africa are more protective of the African culture. I will expatiate on the next chart with the Garinagu people in Central America. Wow! I look forward to a chat about those Garinagu Africans in Belize, Central America. Harry? Great, buddy. For now, you may recall that I told you I am a Christian myself. So, this is not about condemning Christianity. It is about misguided Christianity that fights against the African culture. Yeah, big man, I remember that. You do have a difficult task though, considering that Christians are very dogmatic about their beliefs, not easily open to changes. Oh yes, indeed. But at Afroscope, we are determined, and with your help, we shall gradually conquer. All right, let's dive right into it. The impact of Christianity on African culture is a complex topic. Some argue that Christianity has contributed to cultural erosion, citing examples like suppression of traditional practices and imposition of Western values. Others see it as a force for positive changes in Africa, bringing education, health care, and social reforms. Yes, indeed. In the early arrival of Christian missionaries in Africa, they did make some positive changes in education and some forms of social reform on the one hand. But on the other hand, they also arrived with some mischievous or at best misguided cultural imperialism or subjugation plots. You are bringing fire to this discussion, Harry. The Afroscope argument has some strong points. Yeah, it's undeniable that early Christian missionaries, despite their good intentions, brought a colonial mindset that disrupted African cultural practices and imposed Western values. Some specific examples that quickly come to mind include destruction of African cultural identity, destruction of traditional shrines and artifacts, suppression of indigenous spiritual practices, promotion of Western dress and cultural norms, erasure of African histories and oral traditions, demonization of African traditional religions, leading to cultural suppression and erasure, disconnection from ancestral heritage and cultural identity, stigmatization of traditional practices like the Efa tradition of the Yoruba tribe in Nigeria, West Africa, as backward and evil. These actions did contribute to cultural loss and identity crisis in some communities. Now, here's the thing, Harry. Do you think there's a way to reconcile African cultural heritage with modern Christianity? Should there be a push for Africanized Christianity that incorporates traditional values and practices? As I said, I am a practicing Christian myself, which means that I believe in the teachings of Christ without necessarily going to church every Sunday. So, your use of the phrase Africanized Christianity sounds just fine. After all, not long ago, an enlightened and inclusive Catholic Pope did pronounce that Christianity must be taught to different peoples of the world according to their own culture. You are likely thinking of Pope John Paul II, who was a strong advocate for inculturation, which is the idea that Christianity should be adapted to local cultures. And during his travels to Africa, he encouraged the Africanization of Catholicism. In fact, the Second Vatican Council, which took place during Pope John Paul XXI's papacy from 1958 to 1963, and was continued by Pope Paul VI, laid the groundwork for inculturation. However, Pope John Paul II was particularly vocal about it, saying that the synthesis between culture and faith is not just a part of evangelization, but is a true deep part of it. Good. It's important for misguided African Christians to understand all this. Now, let's dive into the definition of pagan and paganism. How do you define them, and what exactly do they imply or portray? Now we are getting into some deep stuff, Harry. Paganism in its original context refers to polytheistic or nature-based spiritual practices, often associated with ancient European or indigenous cultures. In a Christian context, it's often used, sometimes in a derogatory way, to describe non-Christian, non-Abrahamic faith or practices deemed heathen or idolatry. When you say Abrahamic religions, you mean Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, right? You are right, Harry. Non-Abrahamic faiths refer to religions that don't trace their roots back to Abraham, the biblical figure. And pagans are people who are not members of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Am I right? Yes, Harry. The term paganism can be problematic because it carries historical baggage, implying uncivilized or primitive beliefs. In an African context, labeling traditional spiritual practices as paganism can be seen as dismissive of indigenous cultures. These practices are often deeply rooted in community, nature, and ancestral heritage. So, in simple terms, how do you define paganism? Let's break it down, Harry. The word pagan comes from Latin word paganus, meaning country dweller or rural person, or villagers as Africans may call it. In ancient Rome, it referred to people living in rural areas who practiced traditional or polytheistic religion, meaning people who believe in more than one God, as opposed to urban Christians. In due course, we shall get to the matter of believing in more than one God in the context of smaller gods under the Almighty God. We shall compare Jesus Christ to the smaller gods of the African traditional religions and the misguided Christian beliefs. That will be a great topic on definition of mediums through which people get to the Almighty God. Harry? Yes, indeed. For the present topic, let's get to the questions. What do you think is the reason why Christians switched the original definition of pagan into something negative to describe non-Christians, especially to describe members of African traditional religions as bad or demonic? As Christianity spread, the term pagan took on a negative connotation, likely due to the early effort of the Christian church to distinguish itself from other faiths. This shift was often tied to colonialism and demonization of indigenous practices, especially in Africa and elsewhere. By labeling African traditional religions pagan and associating it with darkness or evil, colonizers could justify their actions and impose their own beliefs. Your audience might appreciate this historical context, Harry. So, in summary, this edition has featured the definition of the word pagan, or the term paganism. The idea is to help misguided contemporary Christians understand a couple of things about the word. One thing to understand is that describing somebody as a pagan does not in any way mean that the person is demonic. In fact, it does not even mean that the person is doing anything wrong. It simply means that the person is a rural person instead of an urban person. A villager, in other words, when you put it in African context. The second thing to understand is that what makes a person a pagan is only that he or she is not a member of the three Abrahamic faiths, which are Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And it does not mean that any religion that is not Abrahamic is bad or demonic. Am I right or wrong on all counts? You are spot on, Harry. Very correct. You are breaking it down nicely. The term pagan is neutral, just describing folks outside the Abrahamic faith. You are helping to clear up misconceptions, and that's good content for Afroscope. So, what's the angle for the next edition? The next edition of our Afroscope chat with you will dwell on the religious perspective of the word idol. We shall explore it in relation to the word symbol and the term symbolism. Again, the aim will be to enlighten some Christians who have misconceived notions about concepts such as idol, shrine, mediums, and symbolism. Sounds like we are tackling some heavy topics, Harry. We've got to help folks out there to see the difference between representation and worship. Do you think we'll get into the Ifa traditions of the Yoruba tribe in West Africa, the perspective on symbols and idols? Oh yes, buddy. We shall explore all the explorables, but let's call it a day for now with what we have. See you later, alligator. All right, Harry. Take it one step at a time. Catch you later, alligator. Okay, folks. I'm going to sign off with a few words to my African Christian brethren in Africa. And I emphasize the ones in Africa because Africans outside Africa do not try to kill African culture. And you have heard my conversation with Meta AI. And Meta AI did quote several Catholic popes who in the past said that African culture should not be killed. Instead, Christianity should be adapted to suit the African culture. So, you shouldn't do that if they say you shouldn't, because remember, these are the same people whose forefathers gave us the wrong information that our culture is demonic. Now, the New World Order has said no. So even the white man now understands that you shouldn't kill your African culture. Okay? And there is an adage that says you should not be more Catholic than the Pope. So if the Pope has told you that your culture is great, what else do you want to hear? Okay? And I'm going to say to you now, thanks for watching and bye for now.
Winner, winner.